The guy who believes his legacy has been affected the most, I honestly think he this is what people do. Like you're one of two types of people. You either take the good part of it, the net as a positive, or you get stuck on the negative. Scottie Pippen is stuck on the negative. Scottie Pippen is stuck on the fact that Michael Jordan called him out for getting surgery, postponing surgery until the season, rehabbing during the season. And that Michael Jordan, who he believed was his close and dear friend and teammate and a guy he looked up to, when he had an opportunity to put together a documentary about how special their 6 championships together were, he called him out as being selfish. Now, I heard the whole thing. He also said that Scottie Pippen was the best teammate he ever had. They also made it out like Scottie Pippen was one of the best players in the NBA. Okay, if not the best player in the NBA when Jordan wasn't playing. And they talked about all this other stuff. But Pippen is pissed. And he's pissed at how people look back and perceive him now. And he thinks it's in a negative light. He's trying to sell a book. He's trying to sell bourbon. He's trying to remake his image. He's trying to even up settle scores. And this is what he said on Dan Patrick yesterday.
Who's a rookie, get the last second shot, and you put me out of bounds. That's what I mean, racial. Like, that was Scottie Pippen's team.
But
Scottie
Phil
Pippen
then
was on pace to be an MVP that year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why would you put him in a position not to be successful? Why wouldn't you put him in a position to succeed? Michael Jordan is not there. So who's next in line for you?
But have you talked to Phil about this? Because by saying a racial move, then you're calling Phil a racist.
I don't got a problem with that.
Do you think Phil was or is?
Oh, yeah. I mean, do you remember Phil Jackson left the Lakers, wrote a book on Kobe Bryant, and then came back and coached him? I mean, who would do that? You name someone in professional sports that would do that, you know? I think he tried to expose Kobe in a way that he shouldn't have. You're the head coach, and you're the guy that sits in the locker room and tells the players, this is a circle, and everything stays within the circle, because that's what team is about. But you as the head coach, open it up, and now you go out and you try to belittle, at that time, probably one of the greatest players in the game.
Well, it feels like he's disloyal. I don't know if that makes him a racist.
Well, that's your way of putting it out, and I have my way. I was in the locker room with him. I was in practices with him. You're looking for him afar.
Scottie Pippen's so mad that he's lashing out. In an effort to be liked and respected, neither is happening. And if we want to paint the context of the shot and the play, forget the point that the ball went in the basket, right? Phil called the play, got the ball to Tony. Tony made the shot. Why are we're not even mentioning that. Here's the other part that's not mentioned. Scottie Pippen, the Bulls had a 4-point lead. They had the ball 2 straight times before that timeout. Do you know who shot the ball? That would be Scottie Pippen. And both were terrible shots and neither went in. But that's beside the point. I don't think people understand and maybe you do, how staining a term like you're a racist is, especially to somebody who isn't. Disliking somebody or making decisions on somebody's life or career based upon their color of their skin is gross. And putting somebody who doesn't do that, who treats people fairly, in that circle and doing it in a huge public forum is almost as bad as the act of racism itself. Scottie sounds like an idiot. I mean, he just does. I'm sure he's a much brighter guy than he sounds like. But the idea that Phil Jackson was going to, and look, I get they didn't like Tony Kukoc because Tony Kukoc was Jerry Krause's guy. They didn't like Tony Kukoc because they played against him in the Olympics, and the first time they destroyed him. The second time he was decent. Hey, but all this does is expose Scottie Pippen as a terrible teammate. He's a terrible teammate. And not accountable for his own actions, which is also a bad teammate. And it makes me think even more of Michael Jordan and even less of Scottie Pippen. Here's how. Michael Jordan did what he did in spite of all the jealousy of Scottie Pippen, all the jealousy of all the other players and what they had to deal with. Like, look, we've looked back and people have said all these great things about Scottie Pippen. Nobody mentioned in the film he was seen as soft. When they traded him, draft day trade for Brad Sellers was soft. They brought in Scottie Pippen, who was very, very raw, but also he wilted with Detroit. He wilted. They punked him. They made him look like he was soft. He got better. He got stronger. Jordan added 20 pounds. What did Jordan do? Jordan was accountable. Accountable. Even in the film, Jordan said, like, hey, yeah, I did what I did, but I did it with the intent of winning. Scottie Pippen's like, nah, it was this guy's fault. It was that guy's fault. It was this guy's fault. That's not being accountable. A good teammate says, hey, I missed the last 2 shots. Somebody else takes the shot. All right, man, you made it. Let's celebrate. That's what you're taught. Now, in fairness to Scottie, he went from, it wasn't like he was part of great teams or he didn't go to college even to be a college basketball player because he was small and he grew. So there were steps that he didn't learn, that he didn't know. He just knew Michael Jordan was gone, so I'm supposed to take all the big shots. Like, he just made, like, outlandish claims. Well, he only passed to Steve Kerr because he was white and for, what are you talking about? He passed to John Paxson for game winners against the Lakers, and they passed to John Paxson for a game winner against the Suns. Like, what are you even talking about, Scott? You're talking out of your ass. You sound like the dumbest human being on earth. Somebody tackle him and stop him from doing these ludicrous interviews. And the only excuse you can have is the Jay Williams excuse, which is Jay Williams was, I was hacked. You got to say, hey, man, this bourbon I was selling, I've been drinking it all morning. I mean, in the permanent stain he's trying to put on Phil Jackson. Who else should write a book? I don't know. But, Kobe Bryant wanted Phil Jackson to come back and coach him. So maybe there was something a little deeper about their relationships. And if you actually read the book, it's more about the psychology of great athletes and about how to deal with these great athletes. And now you think more of Phil Jackson because not only did he pick the right guy to take the shot, but all this time he had to deal with all this nonsense, and all we saw was the winning. All I've heard from people about Phil Jackson, well, he never coached 2 stars. Got to coach 2 stars. Have fun with that. Have fun with that. Michael Jordan, who thinks you either do it my way or the highway, and for a long time before Phil wouldn't pass. And Scottie Pippen, who if he doesn't get the ball or if somebody makes him feel like Robin instead of Batman, he's going to go and take his stuff and go home and call you a racist. Think it's easy to coach these dudes? No, Phil D, he's the best to ever do it. He's a master of psychology. And you know what? Pippen quitting, not going in the game, probably helped Tony Kukoc make the shot. I'll show him. Splash. We win. Like, to this day, Scottie Pippen has never come out and said, I shouldn't have signed that long-term contract. That was on me. That was on me. I probably shouldn't have waited to get the surgery done, but I was vindictive, and this is what I did. That's on me. It's on me. Made all the relationships strained because you chose to do what you did. First, kudos to Dan. And honestly, like, when I started doing this, I thought if I could ever be an interviewer like Dan, and I know I'm pretty good at it, but because Dan is Dan, and because he was covering that series at the time, because it was Keith and Dan in SportsCenter, and how big, like, he's the guy who can do that one, and it was great. Except for Scottie Pippen.